hello, welcome back to my channel. I am Bekah Jo, aka the Makeup Tax Lady, and I come to you today with some more fun, crazy face swatches with my ENSLEY REIGN palette. The one that we are using today, which I'm sure you've picked up on by now, is the Lands of Enchantment palette. Let me flip her open for you. This is a gorgeous palette. So in today's video, we are putting together this look. We are doing these fun swatches on the face, and we are talking about my experience with the palette and my thoughts on it so far. We're talking textures, we're talking shifts, we're talking all of the things. So I'm gonna jump over in a minute to me having no makeup so that we can put this look on. Beware, there's a scene change. I had my ring light overheat while I was in the middle of doing the face swatches, so we jumped over here to my makeup stand to finish up the video. But I really appreciate you joining me for today's video. I'd love to know your thoughts and your comments, so if you want to throw those in the comment section down below, I'd be happy to continue the conversation down there. All right, let's go do it. Let's jump into a look using the ENSLEY REIGN Lands of Enchantment palette. Here is the inside of the palette. For reference, I am filming in front of my ring light, and I cannot wait to jump in and use this. I'm wearing this really cute purple and blue and green butterfly shirt. It's one of my favorite like summer shirts, and I think the purples and blues in this palette go perfectly well, reflect the colors in my shirt really well. So what do I want to use? So my work look earlier today that I've taken off, I wore the shade Enlightened through like the outer portion of my eye and then kind of blended in through my crease. Majestic I used to just build up that shade, the shade Enlightened a little bit. I used Great Crystal combined with Edge of Night to make kind of a smudgy liner on the just kind of outer third of my eye. And then all over the lid, I did a quick little splash of Moonrise across my lid, and the look turned out so pretty and I really enjoyed it. So I think since I went a little more purple with my first look for today, I want to go a little more blue with this evening's look. I want to start with the shade Transcend here, this beautiful blue shade on the side, and put that on the outer portion of my eye. I do have down on my lids just a little bit of eyeshadow primer. That's the only thing I have on right now, aside from some lip gloss. And I'm trying to decide if I want to do a halo look or just keep it to the outer portion. One shade down. I love that shade. Next, with a little bit smaller of a brush, I'm going to dip into Palladian, I think is how we say that. Palladian, P-L-E-I-A-D-I-A-N. And I'm going to use that on the outer portions of my eye. Right here in the outer corner. And then blending that right into the first shade. I'm not too worried about blending it onto the lid because we're going to cover that with a shimmer, but it blends so well. Just using a clean, large, fluffy brush on the end of everything, very gently, just to make sure everything's blending well. And it is blending well, no complaints here. Next, I'm going to take this pencil brush and dip into Utopia, this warm, deep purple shade, and use that as just a little bit of a liner on my lash line. I've really been enjoying just kind of a contrasting color on the lash line. I think it's a fun way to just add a little more color without doing anything too bold. I went and added the shades Lost World and Edge of Night to my lower lash line. I don't know that you'll be able to see that really well, but just FYI, that's what I did. I have used almost all of the shades in this palette already, and I love all of them so much. I think with the look today, I want to use a little bit of Starseed on the outer portion of my eye and Lemuria over the majority of my lid. Here is the shade Starseed. Gorgeous, gorgeous shade. Oh my goodness, look at that reflection. Here is the shade Lemuria. This shade is so pretty. This is kind of a periwinkle shade with some silver to it. And then there's some, I want to say there's some hollow in there. I'm not sure. It could just be the really pretty sparkle to it, but it is such a pretty shade. Just blending that out and up and over to hit everywhere that I wanted to. Back to my clean, fluffy brush, just going to run over the top of everything. Make sure it's all soft around the edges. Except, of course, for that little purple liner we did. These 3 more iridescent shades, I love them all so much. And when we do face swatches here in a minute, you will see why, and you will love them too. I think for a little bit of an inner corner shade, I'm going to use Divine Light, and I'm just going to take that on my finger and just pop it right on the inner corner. Here is the shade Divine Light. Oh my goodness. It's so pretty. And I went with Divine Light over Light Language just for a little different color, because Light Language is more blue, but I wanted the slightly more green shade that is so reflective. I'm loving it. I'm so excited. I'm going to go do my mascara, put on a little bit of a base. I've got a concealer and then a little bit of a powder that I'll do for a base, and then let's come back and do face swatches. I'll be right back. Okay, I am back. My mascara is still drying. I just finished putting it on, but here is the final look. I absolutely love this look. I love every single look that I have made with this palette. I have made several. I haven't filmed them, but believe me, I am having so much fun with this palette. When it originally came out, I wasn't prepared to buy it. I don't recall exactly what my reasoning was. I could talk myself into or out of just about every purchase. So I originally purchased the Flower Moon palette on a pre-order, but I got it on a discount. When I got that palette, I got to know it really well, fell in love with it. Then I ordered Groovy Garden and Harvest Moon at different times, but I don't remember which came first. I ordered Groovy Garden when it launched, and I got Harvest Moon on a little sale that they were running. This palette and Twisted Tea Party and Cold Moon I have picked up since then. This one had definitely been on pre-order for a long time, and I just have a personal rule that I try to avoid pre-orders, because if I'm excited about it today, I don't want to have to wait a really long time to be able to put my hands on it and play with it. So that was another part of the delay for me picking this up, but I am so glad that I did. Typically, my favorite eyeshadow colors are pink and green, but I also really love purples. And this one, I wasn't sure if it'd be too monochromatic, too purple and blue heavy for my liking. You guys, there's no turning back. I love this palette. I love this palette. I love this palette. I also typically haven't been a blue eyeshadow person. I've come much more around in the last several months, and I don't know what changed. If it's just that I've gotten more confident in my technique, that it don't feel like it's too blown out and making me look like I have a black eye. So I think technique is part of it. Having great formulas is definitely key to enjoying colors that you're not used to or not necessarily a fan of on yourself. Good brushes, of course, can make a big difference too. So anyway, blue, purple, and of course we have hints of pink and hints of green in here as well, which I love both of those. We have a beautiful gradient in the mattes. I'm getting ahead of myself. I usually talk about my thoughts on a palette after doing the swatches, but I guess we're gonna do it all at the same time. So we've got a gradient of the mattes. We've got some lighter shades on the top, more pastel shades, and then we've got some mid-tone shades in the middle and deeper shades there on the bottom. Same with the shimmers. We have good variety. We have some neutrals in there that would go with any and every one of the mattes. You can mix and match, I think, any of the shades in this palette and they will go together well. That's been my experience. I feel like there is so much variety offered by this palette. The packaging is weighty and beautiful. We have this beautiful woman on the front and then the gorgeous castle on the back. This palette is enchanting and I am ready to swatch this on my face. So like I mentioned, I'm wearing concealer as my base here. I've got my IT Cosmetics Bye Bye Dark Spots, and this is just a very creamy, very emollient concealer. So I have that spread out all over my face that I blended out with my sponge. And then I've got my Sydney Grace Cloud 9 powder in Fair. They only offer that, I believe, now in a translucent shade, but the translucent is great as well. For mascara, I've got my Smashbox Superfan Mascara. I am ready to swatch these pretty shades on my face. Because I want to give the shimmers the most real estate on my face, I'm going to swatch the 12 shimmers on my cheeks. So we'll do 6 on this side, 6 on this side, and then I'll do the 13 mattes across my forehead. If I need to, I can do them on my chin or find somewhere else to take up space. I'm going to grab Faye and Light Language and Divine Light, and we will start out by swatching those on this cheek. So here on my fingers, we have Faye, Light Language, and Divine Light. These are all three an incredibly smooth, iridescent formula. The shade Light Language is a little bit creamy, a little bit emollient to the touch, so much that it moves around in the pan ever so slightly. But hopefully you can see Light Language has this amazing electric reflect to it. I don't think I've ever seen a shade quite like that. And Faye and Divine Light are also beautiful shades. They have a little bit of a white base, maybe a little iridescent base, and they are super, super shiny. Here's the shade Faye. Here's the shade Light Language. That shade totally disappears when I move my cheek. This is Divine Light. This is what we used on the inner corner for today's look, and that one very much disappears out of the light as well. It's a shade with maybe a little bit more texture to it in appearance, just kind of more sparkle. Next, we're going to pick up Earthlight, Moonrise, and Shattered Stars. Here are the next 3 shades. We have Earthlight, Moonrise, and Shattered Stars. Shattered Stars has a bit of an iridescent, slightly nude base to it with a blue reflect. Moonrise, I don't even know how to describe this shade. This is the one I wore on my lids today, and it was so pretty. In the pan, it looks like a warm shade relative to the rest of the palette, but it's not a warm shade. It maybe has a little bit more warmth to it, but it's just this cool taupe shade with all of these special reflects to it. And then back to the first shade, Earthlight. This is a beautiful mid-tone pink mauve shade with a bunch of gorgeous sparkles. I think those are some hollows in there. Starting with Earthlight. Earthlight is a little bit more chunky. It's not super chunky, but just a little bit. So I scraped off a good bit of it, of what was on my finger before swatching on my cheek. So I built that up just a little bit. So hopefully you can get that really pretty color. Here is Moonrise. Gonna build Moonrise up just a little bit. Oh my goodness, that shade is just so cool. It would go with any and all of the shades in this palette. And Shattered Stars. I love this type of shade. I have a shade like this, similar to this, by Glaminatrix and one by JD Glow. Those are just the ones off the top of my head, but it's such a pretty shade because you can wear it so simply with one or no mattes, or you can add it to a more glamorous look, something that's a little bit more intricate, if you will. And it just has this beautiful factor to it. Okay, we're gonna move on to the other cheek. We're gonna go with True Essence, Lunar Light, and Cosmic Flow. Here are the next three shades. Again, we have True Essence, Lunar Light, and Cosmic Flow. True Essence is probably the chunkiest shade in this palette, and it's not terribly chunky, but it does have some texture to it. Lunar Light is a little bit chunky, but not bad at all, and Cosmic Flow is pretty smooth. True Essence has some hollow sparkles in there. There is True Essence. And in an attempt to not get too much on my finger, I'm going in with a smaller amount and then building it up. Next we have Lunar Light, and this is just a gorgeous silvery purple lavender shade. I have a short, I think it's a YouTube short, I know it's an Instagram reel, with this shade. It's so pretty, so pretty. And here is Cosmic Flow. That is just a beautiful, deeper, mauvey, purpley, pinky kind of shade. Our last three shimmers to swatch, we have Lemuria, which is one that we used on the lids today, Starseed, also on the lids, and Moon Magic, which is such a cool shade. Okay, so my light just overheated and cut out. I apologize for the change in scenery, but I'm over at my makeup stand where I usually get ready every day. So the background's not nearly as light effecty or as aesthetic, but we're gonna just wrap up the video over here because that's not what we're here to look at. We want to look at the eyeshadows. Where was I? So we have Lemuria on this finger, Starseed on this one, and Moon Magic on here. So here are our final three shimmers. Hopefully you're seeing all of the sparkle in Moon Magic. That shade is super shifty, super holographic. Here on the middle finger is the shade Starseed. We used this on the outer portion of the lid. Such a pretty and reflective shade. And lastly on my finger here is Lemuria, which again we used on the lid. And you can see that it's such a cool kind of blue base with a purple / periwinkle shift to it. So let's swatch them. Here is Lemuria. Oh my goodness. I have fallen in love with periwinkle shades in the last several months, but that is so pretty. Next is Starseed. Starseed is a little, ever so slightly chunky, but not too chunky at all. Lemuria is very smooth. Look at the reflect on that though. Can you imagine Starseed with Shattered Stars? Like they're such a similar pop and shine and reflect just with different bases to them. This Starseed definitely has a deeper base and Shattered Stars has a more see-through base. There's such a difference in the depth level and even just the like pigment level between this cheek, and we haven't even swatched the deepest shade yet. But this cheek just has a lot of those more iridescent shades, which I love. If you're not new here, you know that I love an impactful but more sheer shade, shimmer shade, especially for the lid. Love it. And this palette has options. So does Flower Moon. I have the original Flower Moon, not the revamped. Okay, last shade is Moon Magic. Oh my gosh, yes. Okay, I will come in close in just a little bit, but let's move on to the mattes. I think to change up, maybe break up the palette a little bit visually. I don't know, there are no rules. I'm gonna swatch the mattes in an order down columns instead of across rows. So I'm going to start by grabbing Nodal Shift, Lost World, and Great Crystal. Look at the pigmentation. These are so good. Nodal Shift, Lost World, Great Crystal. Nodal Shift, Lost World, Great Crystal. Next, I'm gonna grab Paradise and Atlantis. Here on the finger, we have Paradise and Atlantis. Here is Paradise, and here is Atlantis. Next, we have Portal, Majestic, and Palladian. So again, we have Portal, Majestic, and Palladian. We're going to swatch these this way and run into the other shade that is already swatched. Keep in mind that the way mattes swatch is not always indicative of how they perform. This shade may look a little bit patchy on my forehead, but it's because it's on my forehead and not with a soft brush blended out on my eyelid. Next two shades are Awakening and Utopia. So here we have Awakening and Utopia. I'm gonna go back to this angle here. Oh yeah, look at that depth. Okay, 3 shades left. We have Enlightened, Transcend, and Edge of Night. So again, we have Enlightened, Transcend, and Edge of Night. We'll do Enlighten here, and then Transcend. Oh, no, I've got those backwards. This is Edge of Night, and this is Transcend. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Okay, I'm gonna take a minute here and just get close enough to the camera that hopefully you can see all the pretty colors, the sparkles, the shifts. Is there anything more fun than just putting really pretty shades on your face or on your arm for swatches, or just across your eye one at a time? If I haven't said it enough, I am so in love with this palette. I'm so glad I picked it up. I think for a lot of people, maybe it feels like a winter palette because it's, you know, there's blues and purples, which are generally considered cool tones. I definitely think there's cool tones in here, but these are shades and are depths and are undertones that Bekah Jo will wear all year round. I am a big fan of every look that I've done with this palette, of all of the shades in here, of the variety of shades that you can get. It is a little bit larger of a palette, but it doesn't bother me. because of the variety in here. I know that some have said, and maybe you're thinking, some of those shades are a little bit too similar to each other for me. And I can see where you come up with that, but I personally don't mind. They're all shades that I'm going to use. And generally speaking, I don't mind that shades are similar with just a little bit of nuance to them. I've very much been enjoying layering my mattes lately, so just finding different ways to pair them together to make it a little bit more interesting or different, whether or not I use a shimmer with the look. I'm creating a weird shadow on my face by holding my arm that way. I don't mind that a lot of these are similar or just slightly different personally. That's a decision you have to make for you, but for me, I don't mind that at all. So many of these shimmer shades are such a beautiful texture and consistency that you can wear them a little bit more sheared out, a little bit more sparkly, or you can build them up to be more of a full, intense pigmentation. I tried to get a little more pigmented on the shades that I could here, but this is the palette that I would reach for if I'm trying to do a quick 2-in-1 look, 1-and-done look, or if I'm going for something that's a little bit more involved or a little bit more intricate. I so love this palette. It is such a top-notch palette for me and in my collection. Plus, it goes really well with my butterfly shirt. So I will stop rambling on and on. Have you picked up this palette? Have you tried the brand? Is this a palette that you're interested in? Are you duping the vibes in your own collection with this palette? I will include a non-affiliate link in the description box. I mean, look at this, like this matte and this shimmer right here, like those go together so well. Everything goes together so well. I am so glad I have this palette. I will be using it all year long. You will be seeing more and more of me using it. I even showed it, I didn't use it, but I showed it in another video that I recently posted. She's sticking around in my collection for the long term. So thank you so much for joining me for today's video. I'd love to continue chatting with you in the comments. If you haven't already, I'd love it if you'd subscribe and stick around, and I'll see you in the next video.